talent at the end of the day is ultimately a separator at the highest levels and cuts through the finest lines. But what I would include with talent is a mindset as well, like just a general winning mindset, um, that where they feel, like I said before, where they feel like they're the best player here. And that's where I got as a golfer.
Welcome back to another episode of The Sweet Spot. This is John Sherman from the Four Foundations of Golf. And as always, I'm joined by
Adam from Adam and Golf.
today. I'm excited for our guest today, someone I think a lot of you have likely read many of his books, his writings. Today we have Tom Coyne with us. Tom, welcome to The Sweet Spot.
Thank you, John. Hello, Adam. Great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Welcome on. I like
Yeah.
your background. I like that little setup there. It's pretty cool.
It's a little bit of golf, miscellany golf here, there, and everywhere. This stuff, piles up, and I finally got my own office. We call it, the golfus, as we say. I actually have I have a hole in the carpet there you can putt into.
Nice.
That was my one request when they did this room. I said, "Can you cut a hole in it?" And so a little putting green in the office.
Well done. Tom, you have so many titles. I was kind of like looking at your updated bio. I mean, you're the senior editor of the Golfers Journal, New York Times bestselling author. I'm sure many people have read Course Called Ireland, Course Called Scotland, Course Called America. You got Course Called Home coming out,
Yes,
which I believe is about you. You're a part owner and operate a golf course now in the Catskills called Sullivan County. That's correct?
that is correct. Sullivan County Golf Club in the Lower Catskills. Come and see us. Yeah, I've been running that for a couple years. So the book comes out in May, and I think there's no better Christmas gift this year than a pre-order of A Course Called Home. That's what I've been told. I
saw it come out on Amazon. You have a golf course design firm.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you've done a lot of interesting things in the golf world. I have had some interactions. I've worked with the Golfers Journal. I know the guys over there for many years. And today we're going to talk about a book that all of you have been working on for a couple of years. That's going to come out. When is it officially released? The new book?
Well, by the time this airs, I would say that it's been released.
Okay, so
imminent. It's imminent. Yeah, we're very, very excited for our members to get it.
So we're going to talk about Quiet Please, that book, but I'm very interested in the book that you wrote over 20 years ago called Paper Tiger, just because, and I'm sure you look at the content now that's on YouTube and elsewhere, like it's a very popular thought experiment amongst golfers when they say, man, how good could I get if I just stopped everything? It took a year of my life and got all the best instruction. Could I go pro? Could I be scratch? And there's some variation of that experiment currently going on in multiple content platforms.
Yes.
I also believe there was the Dan plan. I think I've mentioned him on this show a few times, that that was kind of like the 10,000 hours experiment. But you did this over 20 years ago. So I want to talk about this first because I'm sure people have read that book, but if they haven't, like you're kind of like the OG of this thought exercise.
The OG of ridiculously impossible golf ventures.
Yeah, tell us what happened. Like, give us a little brief overview of how this came about and what happened.
Yeah, it's funny, John, thinking of it in that context, because now, I'm great friends with the guys at Chasing Scratch, and
we love them too.
Yeah, and there are other people out there sort of chasing that golf dream. I didn't invent it. I'm sure people did it before I did, but 20 years ago, before Instagram and YouTube, and before podcasts.
I know, crazy.
Feeling very old. Not everyone was doing it. So the genesis of the idea was, well, it really came out like I went to school. I was a fiction writer, and I wrote a novel about caddies, and that got me into the golf world. And I tried to write another novel for a while, and then I thought, well, I'm in this golf space, and what if I did a golf book, and I can do I'd like to do nonfiction. And so it started with, if I could do anything, like what would my golf dream be? And I think like a lot of golfers, that golf dream was, what if all I had to do was play golf? Like, how good could I get? Right. And we all have that. It's the great bait and switch of golf, and why we're so passionate about it, and why we show up every day and we go out the next day, because this is going to be the day where it's going to happen, right? You hit one shot that's good enough and you feel like, man, why can't I just do that 68 times instead of twice? And golf's unique in that way and different than other sports, because I don't watch an NBA game and think, man, I could do that if you gave me here, because I can't dunk a basketball and I can't make, 3-pointers. But when you're playing a round of golf, there's going to be a moment where you're like, that's, whether it's even just making a 20-foot putt, where you're going to say, that's exactly what the pros do. And I just did that. And so there is this temptation, I think, that's built into the game that's wonderful and makes us all crazy and addicted to it. So I said, I'm going to go. The wonderful thing, just from a practical publishing point of view, the idea of doing a nonfiction book for me was nice, because when you publish a novel, you generally write the novel and then try to sell it. And when you're doing nonfiction, you write a book proposal, and that's quite nice because it's much shorter. And it's 30 pages of like what my book's going to be about. So I wrote this book proposal. I'm going to move to Florida. I'm going to get everything the pros have. I'm going to shrink trainers, equipment sponsor, all that stuff. And I'm going to see how good. I think at that time, I don't know if I started off as a 10 or whatever. I mean, I was a pretty good player when I was younger, but I wasn't really playing golf anymore. So I was like, okay, how good can a regular guy get if he has everything the pros have? Now, it's funny saying that now, like you mentioned, seems so ordinary. It seems like so many people are doing it. It's like, okay, yeah, I know 20 people are trying that. So,
well, there's more ways. It's so easy to document it now just because of obviously social media and YouTube, whereas you had to convince a publisher, which is not easy.
Right, exactly. So to get someone to give me an advance so that I could do this was, it was a different world of content distribution. You wrote a book or made a movie or a TV show. That was what you did. And so I wrote books. So thankfully my friends at Gotham Books, which was a part of Penguin at the time, they said yes, sent me on this wonderful adventure to see how good I could get. And in a year's time, the plan was, to go to Q school and put my new golfing self to the test. I don't want to spoil the ending, but I think people will notice that I'm on your podcast as an author, not as a PGA Tour golfer.
He's not in Mexico playing this week's PGA Tour event. But you're pretty good now. What's your handicap now?
I'm on the fall upswing. I'm a 1.9. Yeah, okay. I think I was a 0.5 earlier this year.
That's pretty damn good.
But I had a lesson yesterday, and it's funny. I told my wife, I had an hour in the middle of the day, and it's like, all right, I'm going to go grab a quick lesson because I'm really kind of all over the place. So you still take lessons? I'm like, yeah, I still take lessons. She's like, but you're kind of good at this. I said, no, you always need the checkups and the check-ins. So I'm still doing the same stuff that I did in Paper Tiger, just with much less frequency.
So what happened? Like, give us some of people can obviously. I want people to read the book as well. It'll give like the cliff notes here, but obviously your prose is quite good, so people will benefit from that. But walk us through, like, did you get better fast, like very quickly, and then you hit a plateau? Like, what was the experience like? Did it go like you thought it did, or was just completely like, oh my God, this was a huge mistake?
It was like, well, I had those emotions on a daily basis, or I had those emotions going through just one round, of course, from like, you make 3 birdies and you're like, I wonder, should I tell them what size jacket I wear at Augusta? Because like, this is so going to happen, and then you make 2 doubles and you're like, I'm wasting my life. And that can sort of flip on a dime. But yeah, the way it kind of progressed was sort of it was an interesting curve. Like I did get pretty quickly got down to like a 3 handicap, 2 handicap, like getting down into that range just through the sheer quantity of golf that I was playing, where you just know where your misses are. You're just playing so much that you're just able to get it around the golf course better.
How much were you playing?
I mean, I played 542 days in a row.
Wow. And your body was able to withstand that?
That was the best part of doing this, was the physical transformation, because I would go to the gym every morning. And again, like, I'm dating myself, because now it's like, of course you go to the gym for golf. Nobody 20 years ago
no one
was going to the gym for golf.
Yeah.
I had to look really hard to find like a golf specific physical trainer. There was like one I went down to like the Naples area and in Florida, and it was hard to find a trainer who could do golf, but I did, and I'd work with him every morning. And so I got in like tremendous shape, probably the best shape of my life. Lost a lot of weight, got got strong. I found out that I had a core and that I could do something.
Somewhere in there.
I could do something with it. And so we worked really hard on that stuff. So I got flexible. That's the, when I think back on it, that's what I miss the most, is that my body was conditioned to like do the things I was asking of it. Where now, I can watch videos on YouTube until my eyes bleed, but it's like my hips they don't do that. With 3 months of effort, they might, but I don't have that luxury anymore. But I did then, so really got in really good shape, got very flexible, the scoring went down. I struggled so the handicap started to fall. My competitive scores were incredibly inconsistent, throughout the book. And so there were moments of like, where I was around par. I think in the pub links, back when we had the pub links, had a pretty tidy round there, and then blew it on the second 18. I played like some of the amateur tour stuff and won some of those. Going into events, I started playing qualifiers for, at that time, the Nationwide Tour and Monday qualifiers and all that stuff. And going into those, I felt like very, very much an outsider, like very much a pretender. And that weighed on my brain and on my golf. And where if you're going into a round of golf where your goal is to not embarrass yourself, that isn't the winning mentality. I don't know a lot about the winning mentality, but I don't think that that's it.
Well, you were working with a swing instructor and a mental coach as well. So you kind of had like a team around you that was helping you daily, weekly, whatever it was.
Yeah, I would go see, and they were great. And so I don't, it's not their fault that I'm not on a tour. I'm just a human being. That's why I'm not on the tour. I'm not some superhuman golfer. I worked with Doc Jim Suddy, who at that time was teaching out of. In the summer, he was in Chicago. In the off season, he was in down at Twin Eagles, outside of Naples. So he was amazing. He'd worked with all sorts of tour guys of a different generation, of like the Larry Mizes and the Paul Azingers, and he was wonderful and brilliant. And I'd see him weekly. And then I was working with Dr. Bob Winters, who was the mental game guru out of the Ledbetter Academy, and he was wonderful. And that stuff helped a lot. It really did. And there were moments when, obviously the physical stuff and learning my golf swing and getting in better positions and just being able to hit the ball differently than I did when I started, that all took place. But the mental part of it, when I could summon it, right? Like when I could put it into use, the sort of one-shot mindset. And, he was sort of a disciple of Bob Rotella. So it's this sort of mental game approach that a lot of us know and have studied, and being in the moment and all that great stuff. When you're playing well enough to, when your game feels good, when my game felt good enough to utilize that and to put it into play, that's when I had my best results. When I, like when I went to the Australasian Tour Q School, and at that point I had a two-way miss and was like, I don't know what's going on. It's much harder to get into the mindset of like, let that go, just focus on this shot, because when you don't know where the shot's heading, that sort of poisons your whole bag. So there was some of that to contend with, but such it is with every golfer.
What made you feel like an outsider specifically? Do you remember? I know as a junior golfer for myself, seeing people with better equipment than me, shades that were more than my entire set of clubs, that was the thing that kind of made me feel like, oh, these guys have resources I don't. What was it for you in your domain?
I think it was this sense that nobody there gave a damn who I was. And I cared a lot about who they were. Like I knew, like, oh, that dude can play, like look at him, look what he's doing. Like they didn't even notice anybody else. Right. And that was something that Dr. Winters talked to me about, like this idea of if you're showing up and you feel like you're in somebody else's way, you're kind of dead money. You want to be the player who doesn't notice anybody in his way, that you're so into what you're doing. And he would talk about, back in the day, David Duval, like going out and shooting crazy numbers and then not recalling like who his playing partners were. Like that blows my mind, because, and it was probably why my venture was a little bit flawed from the start, because a writer's perspective on things is to take it all in, to be.
Yeah, you're noticing everything.
I'm noticing every detail. I'm taking mental notes. These are things I'm going to write about. It's sort of my nature anyway. And then, but I think your best golf comes from a place where you don't see anybody else. So it was just walking into a space and seeing like, these are people who wear their tournament golf self naturally, right? They don't have like I'm good at my home club and I'm good here and then I'm good in tournaments, like that. Those are separate things. They're just good, and they wear that confidence. I think it's palpable. And these are even guys that were just trying to Monday qualify and weren't making a living and were not even like, by pro golf standards, they weren't making it. But to me, they just carried this air of confidence, security. They just look like they belong there. And I felt like I didn't. And because I didn't, there I was masquerading, for a year. But then there's this other part of your head where you're just like, well, I went out in the practice round yesterday and shot 71. Like I belong here. Why can't I play too? And when it was rare for that to carry over into actually a competitive round, but it could.
What did you learn about, I think there's this ongoing debate in everything, and this is part of that whole 10,000 hours thing, is like the talent versus hard works.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what scientists would say at this point, but I've always heard it's like, 50% genetics, 50% environment. As you said earlier, like we watch basketball and football, we're like, there's no chance we could ever, LeBron James was 6'8" and 250 pounds when he was 15 years old. I was 4'11", 120 pounds. Like I can't work my way into that physique. But in golf, you watch guys on TV and you're like, well, they don't look that imposing. So it kind of leads you down this path where it's like, maybe I can do that.
Yeah.
So what did you, through your experience, and obviously you got really good. It's really an exercise in like focused work and getting the right help. Like you obviously got really good, but your bar was much higher. So what would you say to people and like that, like you really went through something intense and like taught you something about those two things? Like what was your big takeaway there?
Yeah, I think talent at the end of the day is ultimately a separator at the highest levels and cuts through the finest lines, right? So if I was looking at if I was at these tournaments and what's the difference between someone who shot 66 and someone who shot 72 on the driving range, I wouldn't have been able to tell the difference. And they both worked as hard, I'm sure. And but what I would include with talent is a mindset as well, like just a general winning mindset that where they feel, like I said before, where they feel like they're the best player here. And that's where I got as a golfer, like in some settings, which was really fun. Like if I'd show up to like the Southwest Florida Am Tour and look
You're
around,
the alpha dog there.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, I got this, and I'd go out and play great, and I would win, and that was amazing because I couldn't have done that, a year before, and that was really cool. But that was like my setting where I felt like the alpha dog. So to be able to look around at all these great players and feel that way, feel like this is yours to take, that is a mindset. I think that's a talent, that winning approach to anything is, and that comes from, experience and having won before and all those things and all that life experience. That was the hard thing for me, was to get comfortable in my tournament skin, for not having played a life of tournaments. I didn't play college golf, and I didn't have that resume to sort of fall back on and say, oh, well, I did this and that. My first 4-day tournament was Canadian Q School in my life. So like, I didn't have the luxury of falling back on like, oh, I remember in college when it was like this, or in the NCAAs, it was like that. And, I didn't. So, but that's, I think from a story point of view, that's why I hope it worked, because I was genuinely coming to it as an amateur guy, as a regular guy. But I think that those intangibles, the mindset, that just, the guys that won are the guys that really, really played. They just knew how to golf their ball. Like they just knew how to get it in the hole. They kept it simple. They got their ball in the hole faster than everybody else. And it was beautiful to watch. And there was something so simple and almost like anti-intellectual about it. Like they were able to boil golf, the playing of competitive golf at least, to boil it down to something very pure and very simple. I'm going to get this ball in the hole before you do. And that was awesome, because to see that. At one point, someone told me, like, in the midst of all my studying and swing thoughts and film work and all the stuff I was doing and the notes I had from my lessons with my mental game coach, they told me, like, if you're going to be good at this, you got to get a little bit dumber. Like, you're you're turning this into this. It's not an intellectual pursuit. It can be, and I like to make it that because that's how I enjoy golf. But it's really quite simple. You need to hit your ball there, hit it there, and then hit it there. And when you watch people do that, of course, millions of hours of work go into that and being able to do that efficiently. But just being able to pull the trigger and do that when it really mattered, I think that's an intangible kind of thing that either comes from great reinforcement as you're growing up or just the natural ability to do it. That you can't fake, I found.
How much of your game and scores, it's pretty hard to quantify back then, but how much of it would you say was attributed to your confidence? So I know you mentioned when you were in amateur tours, you felt like, well, I'm going to win this one. Then when you went to more professional events, you felt like an outsider. But chances are you could have played exactly the same for both of those in terms of the quality of shots that you hit. It's just obviously, you have to shoot 66, 65, 63 to win a pro event. Versus amateur, not so much. I think with strokes gained stats, I don't know if you aware of that kind of stuff, if that interests you.
I am.
We would be able to track those things now and see that, well, maybe you actually hit it just as well. But the comparison is what changed the confidence after. I mean, you tell me how much you feel it affected your game, the actual shot quality.
It would have been interesting too. This was before strokes gained, became a mainstay of people tracking their progress. And that would have been really interesting. Although I could probably guess just in terms of thinking like where my liabilities in golf were, at the time as my, I could drive the ball well. Was a tall and fit younger man. And so I would be on the longer side of the field, which was always helpful. Not a bad putter. I wouldn't have been whipping the field, but I'd say middle of the pack putter. Ball striking. Yeah. As one of my friends said when I was doing the book, he said, "You don't reach for that 5-iron with any love in your heart, do you?" And
that's like, a great line.
Yeah,
I love that.
I'm like, yeah, you're right. I don't. And when you're playing, at least at that time, you start playing courses that are 7,000 plus yards, you're going to have 5, 6, and 7 irons. And that was, it just, again, it's what are you comparing yourself against? If you put my 7-iron up against, someone at the club where I was practicing, they'd be like, wow, you nearly hit the green every time. Versus you're playing with guys who are like, all right, I want to be below the hole here and, short left and blah, blah, blah. And they're thinking with a little different sort of precision. So it's sort of like, how wide is your vision of the golf course? Mine remained pretty wide. Like, I hope this 5-iron gets near the green. On the green would be wonderful. And then you're playing with guys who aren't doing anything fancy. They're generally hitting the middle of the green, but they're hitting the middle of the green a lot. So yeah, I'm sure that's where I knew that was even without strokes gained. I knew that's where I didn't match up. Yeah, so I tried to fix it.
How good did you get? Like, were you keeping your handicap the whole time and like posting scores and measuring?
Yeah, I was posting scores the whole time. So
what did it look like month by month? Like, if you can, to the best of your recollection, like what did the progression look like over, 1, 3, 6, and 12 months?
Yeah. So like I said, it got down to like the 3-2 range pretty quickly. Kind of stalled around like 1 and 2 in there for a while.
Classic.
Yeah, exactly. So that means, I'm shooting a lot of 74, 75s, and, having a hard time making those, going to bed every night, thinking about those 3 putts or that one shot that cost me 3 strokes, or I'd be a scratch golfer, I'd be a plus golfer. Over the course of the summer, like I went to Florida, then I came home and worked up here, played a ton, and I got to a +1, but that's as good as I got. But to me, like, that was as amazing, right? Like, wow, I never thought I'd be able to say that. And this is before, I think the general bell curve of like golf talent and handicaps has shifted since in 20 years, where if you had a plus handicap at your club, he'd be like, we have a plus handicap at our club.
Yeah.
And now you go to a club and there's 20 guys who are plus handicaps. So how that's happened is, up for debate. But yeah, I thought that was like really good. But then when I realized, I'm like, okay, I just went and followed my friend around Q school and he shot 72 on a course that was rated from tees that were rated 76.8, and so he's a +4, and he missed by a mile.
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh man, +1 stinks. And there's a line in the book that I'm quoted more than any other from people. And Paper Tiger, I'm glad it's fun to talk about because it's the one that, most people want to talk about Ireland or Scotland, but it's the real golf heads, the golfers who want to talk about Paper Tiger. And there's a line in that book that says scratch is shit. And no offense to my friends at Chasing Scratch, but it was really true. Like you came to realize that like, even if you're like thinking about your handicap or thinking scratch is some sort of benchmark, like you're dead money in these qualifiers and these sort of things that I was playing, because these guys are plus many strokes, and they're still can't break in.
Well, it's wild because you went from like, let's say somewhere around like the median level of golfer in the context of most recreational golfers, all the way to the top 1%. So you got to scratch or better. You're top 1% of millions of golfers, which is an incredible jump. That's very, 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 very difficult. And then but the funny thing about golf is like you've alluded to, there's all these different levels where you feel like the top dog somewhere. Like recently I was playing in a tournament and I was talking to like the best guy in our area. And he was someone who tried to play professionally. And he's like, yeah, I just couldn't do it. He's like, this is a joke for me dominating, in this area, like against that. Like, he's like, this isn't, it's not a challenge to him, but him trying to make it on the mini tours was like, he just couldn't do it. And this guy is a million times better than me. Like he's so much better than me. Like I can't beat him. So there's all these different levels.
There are. And then what separates the levels really, when you think about it, is 2 shots, 3 shots, 4 shots, 5 shots from the top. So it's crazy how thin that margin is, but it's undeniable too, right? There's a part of the book that probably the people bring up the second most would be the talent pyramid that I write about, where I'm like, okay, here's where, think of the best player okay, they're the bottom of the pyramid. And then here's the club pro, here's the attached club pro who's just playing a lot and not teaching. Here's the guy trying to make it on the mini tours. Here's the guy making on a mini tour. Here's the guy making it on this mini tour. Like there's all these levels of good. And when we think of what great golf is and pro golf is, we're just talking about the peak, the diamond atop that pyramid. And there's this huge base of incredible golf and talent that's beneath it. But that's why we keep chasing the diamond, because 4 more shots and you're there. They're just very, very hard to come by.
Yeah. And as you said, like, I think it's very similar to the progression you have, similar to my game. You get to, for players who have aspirations of scratch or plus handicaps, which is, let's face it, a lot of people, like you get down to that 2, 3, 1 handicap level and you stall. And then you realize, man, that extra stroke, that's the difference between like, one drive I blasted way off the map or I missed a 2. It feels so small and large at the same time. And then in tournament golf, the difficulty of the courses is very underestimated. As you said, like you're playing qualifiers on a 7,300 yard. Like I don't think people always downplay the difficulty of PGA Tour events. They're like, oh, it's too easy because their guys are shooting like 25 under. And I'm like, you go play the TPC course in Memphis where they tee it up, like you will shoot a million. It is so hard. I walked it. I'm like, I'm not sure I could break 80 on this course and I'm fairly good. Like the level of difficulty of courses in tournament setups at those levels are really mind boggling. And those players who are so good make it look easy. They'll shoot 67.
You're right. It's wild. And it's interesting. You like, say, okay, that stall that you get around like 1 or 2.
That's where the strokes blow up.
Yeah. Like how do I break through that? And it goes back to like a lot of what you've written about, John, is for me, it was just eliminating the big mistake, right? Like that,
which is hard.
Going from a stroke average of 74 to 72 is, eliminating a double. It's not easy. It's easier said than done. I'm not trying to make doubles.
I was going to say, how do you go about that?
Right.
Like, what is the process to eliminate the big mistake?
Yeah. Play easier golf courses is one.
Yeah.
That helps. And two, for me, it got to the point where I really knew where my misses were going to go. Like I could, not that I'd step up on the tee and plan for my miss, but I could take certain things out of play, which I probably, when I'm shooting 74, 75, 76, I don't know if I can take those things out of play. And then I can also be willing to take them out of play, which is something that I think I learned over the course of that year, which is the sheer disappointment of golf breaking your heart over and over again because you make those mistakes, learning the hard way and making less of those deciding to play smart golf. And I don't mean timid golf, but I mean knowing that if I step up on a hole with a lake on the right, that with the way my ball was behaving at that time in my life, that I knew like where I had to aim so that I was going to make the worst on that hole of 5. And
I was going to say, was it more of a strategic thing? Like I know Tiger's caddy Steve Williams talked about Tiger aiming at specific parts of the fairway. So if there's water on the left, aim at the right side of the fairway. So a strategic thing. Or was there something technical you'd implement, like a feel that you knew, if I did this feel, if I do this feel, I'm less likely to miss in that area where the danger is? Was it
for me, it was a combination. It was definitely like, okay, I know that's a danger zone for me. But if I do this, the way that Doc and I had been working on for 6 months, that it's not going to go there. It might go too far the other way, but I'm going to at least. So I thought of it as like the golf course started to like shrink a little bit. It just got tighter for me. And that was, and so that's a combination, I guess, of strategy, but also of just me hitting the ball better and having a sense of where it's going. So that allowed me to, I think, start posting rounds without double bogeys. And once you're doing that, you're probably making 3 or 4 birdies and you're in good shape.
Here's the last question, because I want to transition over to the new Golfer's Journal book. Last question on Paper Tiger. As a thought experiment, if you did it today, let's say you were starting this journey right now and you had modern technology and all the stuff do you think you would have gotten better faster if you had access to the launch monitors and the advanced, I mean, your competition would as well, but I'm just, you specifically, do you think you would have reached a higher level faster, or it would have not made that much of a difference?
It probably, like, the uptick and the improvement probably would have come more quickly just because it's just so much more accessible. I would know exactly who I'd go to. I took a lot of time, like, trying to find, like, what physical therapist knows anything about golf, like, so I know I'd go to TPI, I'd do this, and like, the game plan would present itself much more easily, or readily, I would say, and I would know what to do. I don't think it would have, in the end, I think I would have topped out at a similar place. I think that at the end of the day, I'm the golfer that I am. But there's always a chance that tomorrow will be a little better. There's always a chance. I'll be finding out tomorrow. So, but yeah, I think it would have been a much more boring story, because it was like, part of the fun of Paper Tiger was trying to do this when, like, it was like, I don't know where to go. All right, I'll move to Florida where there's lots of golf, and then I'll look for a coach. And I found this great coach, and now it's like, all right, who wants to? I got to lose weight. I'll go meet some lady in a parking lot who's going to talk to me about what I eat, like that, all that stuff. Because it wasn't so, it was a little more unusual. The adventure of it was part of the fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an extremely risk-averse person. So just the idea of doing it, especially back then where there wasn't a lot of information, you're like, I'm just going to blow up my life for a year and see what happens. And yeah, you get an advance from a publisher, but you don't know what's going to happen. It was kind of a very interesting thought. So I would, hopefully people go and get the book and read it, because it is, again, I think it's interesting now, and that's the reason I wanted to talk about it with you, because in this day and age, it's more ubiquitous because of the internet and video and all the access to information. You did this at the exact last moment you could have before that.
And I think, when you're saying would I have gotten better, I might have gotten worse, because when you think about it.
Too many YouTube videos, maybe.
Like I had Doc Suddy, and I'd go home from my lesson with a VHS tape from my lesson, and I'd watch it and I'd watch it over, and I had a stack of tapes by the end of end of doing this. But now, scrolling through my Instagram or YouTube, I've got new swing thoughts
every day,
every day, every minute.
I got a few questions on like the specifics of, because I'm a golf coach. So we've talked about strategy and the mental side of it, but I'm interested in the specifics of any technical things that you did. Like, what was the improvement process? For example, when I'm looking at strike, I'm looking at face direction, I'm looking at path, I've got a launch monitor running, I'm looking at my stats. Were there any what were the breakthrough moments for you, if you can remember them, or was it like a constant linear process?
No, I can remember them because I was thinking about them yesterday as I was taking this lesson with my pro at Waynesboro. Jeff Herbie's awesome. And, right away he pointed out some stuff, and it's funny. So when I was going through my work with Doc Suddy, who was kind of a pioneer in using video work, which is, 20 years ago, not everyone was watching swings and breaking them down on screen. And he was really into body movement and body types and like what your body was able to do. So he would compare me to, say, like someone who had a similar physique or mobility. And I would look at a lot of Stuart Appleby for whatever reason. That's who Doc Suddy decided I should study. So we would look at what he did and what I could do differently to, for better and more consistent contact. But it was funny. I came to him with a dead shut club face, right? So at the top of my swing, I'm pointing straight up, the club face. And I spent most of that year trying to get like neutral. And I went to my lesson yesterday and they're like, you're too neutral. Like, we need to strengthen up, for the way, and frankly, because my body doesn't rotate like the way I want it to. So we worked on, okay, if you take it away with the club a little bit shut, now you're in a better position. And man, I started just pinching and compressing balls. And I'm like, I haven't done this in a while. And it felt great. So I'm like, gosh, it's so funny how golf teaching and golf trends, right? Like of what we should be doing. Now it's all about shallowing, or it's all about, what your hips are doing and rotation and all this stuff. And I'm like, man, back then it was like, okay, you're really trying to get to these like certain positions and looks. And so, yeah, because back then like Paul Azinger played with a shut club face, then Dustin Johnson did, but otherwise no one else did. And so it was like, yeah, you can't play golf like that, or you really have to be able to rip your hips. I couldn't. So yeah, so that was like the technical thing that we worked on a lot, was like positions and
Are you saying that in the past,
movement.
Getting more to neutral helped you, and now getting more to closed helped you? So it's just that things are dynamic, right? We have to change as our bodies change.
Yes, I think that's it. I think it's that my body has changed, where like my turn looked quite a bit different 20 years ago. I still have a pretty good turn for someone of my age, but at least going back from the ball, not as much through as I'd like. So like that rotation, is that there as much as my butt used to face the camera at impact, and now you can basically look in my right pocket at impact down the line. So it's like all right, which is something I'll continue to work on. And I think I can. Of course, I might be able to get there, but like I need to really focus and work on that. And it was 20 years ago. It was natural.
Sometimes it's just a different set of matchups, right? It's just a different way of doing it. And you could say, okay, well, now the modern trend is more closed club face, being more open at impact. And yeah, you can work for a lifetime doing that to achieve basically the same situation.
Exactly.
So it's like you have to have a kind of a crystal ball as well to know, okay, well, is this worth pursuing, or am I just trying to put myself in a different vehicle to do the same race?
Yeah. And it was, when I'm working with Doc, there was this, I gave him a lofty project. I'm like, I'm trying to play, like, I want to like play with guys who are, at the next level, and all that. So he was taking me straight to like, well, if you want to do that, then you got to start doing things. You got to look a hell of a lot more like them than you do right now. So it wasn't like, hey, I'm going to shave 4 strokes off your game and you're going to have more fun on Saturday. It was kind of like, all right, let's try and break you down and build you back up. Versus going to my lesson yesterday, it was like, hey, like, give me 3 things to work on. And, so I can just be striking the ball better and have more fun when I go to Georgia next month, so.
Nice. I know we don't have you forever, Tom. So let's transition to Quiet Please.
Yeah.
which
Very
is
excited about this.
the forthcoming, it's a massive, well, the cool thing about Golfers Journal, I've known Brendan and Travis from the beginning when you guys first launched it, releasing a physical periodical golf publication seemed crazy. It was been 8 or 9 years since it came out.
Yes. Yeah. 8 years.
So it kind of bucked
plus
the trend of digital publishing and said, no, we want to make something that's physical that people will enjoy with wonderful photography and great storytelling. And everyone there has done a great job growing this thing, the community, the publication's fantastic.
Thank you.
And I've been a huge fan for a while. It's been great to be a part of the community at times, whether it's at your events, and you guys have been kind enough to share some of my content with the community. So tell us about Quiet Please. What was the idea behind it? I know it took a couple of years to get it ready. Give us the story.
Yeah, it's been a few years in the making. We do a premium gift every year for our premium members at the Golfers Journal. They're members of, the Broken Tee Society, which is that's the community around the Golfers Journal, which our logo is a broken tee if people don't know. And so we do a premium gift every year. That's something that's bespoke. That's something that we make. That's something unique, something useful, and is valuable as well. And so that you feel like, we put a big emphasis and focus on member value at the Golfers Journal, with whether it's with who we're partnering with or where we're going or what we're doing. Like, how does this benefit the people who have trusted us with their investment to become members? When I say investment, it's not anyone listening. It's not that expensive.
I'm sure we have members listening, so they're saying, "Oh, wow, I didn't pay that much money." Calm down.
But we take it seriously. We feel like, hey, you've trusted us with this, and we're always thinking about, how can we make different experiences or different things for our members, along with, trying to make a beautiful book every quarter. And so we thought, we wanted to do a book. The Golfers Journal magazine sort of feels like something of a book in paperback when you get it quarterly, but we thought, all right, let's do something substantial, a proper hardback, beautiful book, and do it our way, which would, mean that it'd be of a certain quality, that it would be up to the standards that, we try to set with the magazine. So elevated and thoughtful and all those things. And it took a while to figure out, like, well, what do we want to explore in the book? And we kicked around different ideas for a while. And we realized we wanted the book to be a chance to be really a moment, an experience for a reader to reflect, to pause, to, like the title suggests, Quiet Please. We live in a very noisy world and a noisy golf world. And in the Golfers Journal, that's already sort of our motto. And the magazine is something that hopefully you can enjoy quietly and reflect upon your relationship with the game. But I think Quiet Please, this hardback, very large book, is that to another degree, where I think picking it up is even just a moment of pause, is heavy. And it'll be the biggest book on your coffee table, I promise. It's a coffee table type book, and to pick it up is a moment of pause. And as you start to flip through it, it's a mix of images, mostly from Christian Hafer and Koji Aquino, who are, the best. And the words, we went back and forth on, would we ask this writer we love or that writer we love, and do some of it internally. And we eventually decided that we wanted to have one voice running through the book to give it that sort of unity. So all the words are by me. I went to, it's been a while now, but I went up to our house in the Catskills and locked myself in there for like a week and wrote 20,000 words on things that I wanted to reflect on in golf. So it's not news. These aren't pro golf stories. There's no swing instruction. I wrote passages, and they're all the pieces throughout the book are pretty short, but the reflections on the sounds of golf, the colors of golf, the playing golf at night, playing with your dad, playing with your friends, planning for a golf trip, like those, just all those little sorts of moments that I think build up to make golf something that cumulatively make golf something that we all love. So I hope that the idea is that when you read it, I think it's sort of a unique experience, and that we're not trying to just tell you a story, that as you look at the images and go through the words, that you're going to be recalling your own stories and reflecting on them. And that's the kind of interactive experience I hope people have with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of photography in general, and the two photographers you mentioned, I have a earlier copy of the book that was sent to me, and the photographs are pretty striking. They're incredible. Some courses I've played, some courses I haven't played. And you've written various passages. You want to run us through maybe like a couple of your favorites? I know time was an interesting one. I think it was like the idea of, sometimes you get rushed through a round of golf, but there's these moments where you kind of have to absorb it and take it in. So you have like different themes
Yeah.
that you go through. What are some of your favorites that we can give a little preview on?
Yeah, I like the racing the sun was, I don't know if that's what it's called. I don't remember the chapter titles.
Isn't that amazing that I could sympathize with that? I'm sure Adam can too. Sometimes you don't remember what you wrote specifically. It's like this cloud in your brain.
I know. Yeah. Like I said, this is a long project. So
yeah.
But I can remember, like, as I was writing it, there were moments where I was like, oh, I feel like I put my finger on something there that meant something to me and that I thought would mean something to the audience. Racing the Light, the sound of like golf carts in the twilight as you're trying to finish up. There's a passage on that. There's a passage on me playing golf going to golf camp in Carolina and hitting balls in the Carolina summer and as a kid and chasing something better, and the sound of the mosquitoes and the salt on my arms and just the absolute joy of grinding like that. Going to St. Andrews with my dad, that's a passage that definitely sticks out to me as well. But like some of the passages are almost just like lists, like things that, like, I like the golf sounds that I just kind of wrote down, these different little, and if you read that and you start to hear them yourselves, hopefully it kind of takes you, to some good golf or to a mindset where you feel like you're experiencing that. So yeah, they're pretty much ruminations, reflections, but they're not terribly specific to me. Yes, there are moments where it's like, okay, this is the best shot I ever hit. And I write about that, which was a second shot into a par 5 at Rolling Green, the 9th hole, which at that point, no amateur hit it and made the putt before. And I was the first, and that was in Paper Tiger as well. So like that's a personal story, but I would say most of the writing in it hopefully feels like plucked from anybody's golf life. If you've experienced this game and traveled and enjoyed it, or even if you haven't, it should conjure memories of your own golf, hopefully, or maybe take you to some places you haven't been to.
Yeah, I think that's, as I read through some of them, that's what happened to me. Like when you talked about the element of time, and I think you mentioned playing foursomes at Muirfield, which is a legendary club in Scotland. You have to race through it. It's 2.5 hours. Fortunately, I've played it, and I've played it outside of the. I just played it as a normal golf course, so I didn't feel rushed. But I have felt that, whether it's a tournament or sometimes, let's say you're lucky enough to play like a very nice kind of private club where time is they're like, you better finish in 3 hours and 50 minutes. Like someone actually posted on social media yesterday, the list at Sleepy Hollow, they out you publicly if you finish in over 4 hours. So yeah, there's certain time, and then plenty of people listening to this like, well, I know what it feels like to play a 6-hour round where time feels like it's going so slow. But the thing that I think about with time is like, on every round, I try to kind of take mental snapshots. Like I played yesterday, and we were chasing the as you said earlier, we were running out of light. And I think those last few holes where like the sun was going down and we were kind of like racing through like that, we were racing, but at the same time, like time was slowing down. I'm like, this is fun. It might be one of my last rounds of the year. So that kind of like, as I read what you were writing, it made me think about these little moments I have in almost every round I play, where I try and take a mental snapshot, and hopefully it stays with me for a while. And I think a lot of golfers who play the game, can identify that with on some level.
Yeah, it's those moments, it's those experiences that they're not on their face, they're not terribly profound, right? But if you look at them closely and then you reflect on them later, that there's something going on there that's really quite moving and can be bad. And I'm not trying to take small things and make them bigger than they are, but I think on the passage on time, you're right. Like, this is a game where we're always measuring time, but in that moment when you're striking a golf ball or standing over a golf ball, that's like, there's an infinity to it, right? Like all time and so many things are encompassed in those few seconds, that those few seconds are hours, right? And that's that. There's a kind of magic to that. It's not the kind of stuff you want to be thinking about over the golf ball, but when you're reflecting on golf later, and what are the sort of magic elements and wonderful moments that make it like so much more than than just a pastime for a lot of us. That's what I was trying to sort of poke around at. And along with, really, like you say, the star of the book is the imagery. I mean, Christian and Kojo and we had some other photographers contribute as well. It's just cool to look at. The first time I saw it recently and had it in my hands for the first time, and I was just like, whoa. Not only because of the sheer size of it, but, flipping through it and thinking like, this is, this is awesome. And I'm not trying to toot our own horn that we made something awesome, but there is like a physical reaction to it where you're like, whoa, like I never expected to have this.
No, I think what's interesting about, I was listening to a different podcast, I think it was yesterday, I was in the car, just about like the idea of where content came from and where it's going now. And I think people potentially are getting a little burnt out on digital only, like having 50 tabs open on your Chrome browser and you're like trying to read something and it's like you're looking at Twitter or Instagram. It's just like, it's kind of a mess, right? Like you're not really paying attention to something. And I think maybe you guys will be early movers on this, but I think there will be a desire in the coming decades to go back to something that's physical that literally forces you to focus on perhaps just a photograph. Like you wouldn't look at a photograph on your computer screen and be like, oh my God, that's so special. But if it's in your lap and you're sitting on your sofa, it's a different experience. That's why I think this stuff is, I know so I've had conversations with one of your founders, Brendan Thomas, about how difficult it is to publish this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of backbreaking work to make it come to life. But I actually think in a interesting way, like going back to physical might be something that we kind of all need in golf and elsewhere.
I think we all need it. Yeah, right? Elsewhere, right? Like as I'm looking at all these tabs open, as you just mentioned. And
I've got 7 open right now. I'm looking at it. It's crazy.
It is. So the book is definitely an antidote to the tabs. There's no tabs in this book, and you would say, okay, the sheer size of it. What is that just to show off, or just what's the purpose? There's an actual purpose to it, that if you pick this up and put it in your lap and start looking at it, that you have to pause, right? You can't have it's not conducive to staring at your phone and reading this book. This is a pause from that, and that however you find those pauses in your life, we all need more of those for sure.
Well, that's why golf is awesome, right? Because you get that pause when you play golf. Like that's why I'm very like bullish on golf in general too, just because I think golf is a perfect antidote to us getting sucked into the digital world too much. And I know I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth because I'm someone who puts stuff in the digital world and benefits.
As do we. I know.
It's important. Yeah,
it certainly is. Yeah, but we play in that sandbox, as they say, as well. But then at the same time, we need a break from it too.
Well, Tom, I know you're a busy guy. I know you got to get going. Where can everyone can get Paper Tiger. It's on Amazon. I really would encourage everyone to order Paper Tiger and read it, because it is a very cool journey, and all of your other books are incredible too. That's why you're a New York Times bestselling author, and best of luck on the new book that I think is coming out next year. The Golfers Journal. So yeah, just so everyone's clear on it, it is part of the membership. We want to be, and I'm a member of Golfers Journal, so I could say I've been spending the money the last, whatever it is, 7-8 years. I think it's a pretty good value proposition you guys give. So people will be getting this in November, I believe, right?
Yeah, it's part of your premium membership. So, which right now I think is $275, and you're going to get a book that I would say if you bought it in a bookstore would cost at least that much. So it's a good proposition. So if you just golfersjournal.com and get signed up, and not only get signed up, but sign up a loved one as well. We have great gifting opportunities and referrals to your friends. You get lots of gifts, and we're always sort of trying to, again, create value for our members by encouraging them to share the Broken Tea Society with their friends and family too.
Yeah, I know we have members listening. So listen, I admire what you guys have built over there. I know you've worked really hard at it, and you've definitely got a lot of momentum now. And this is just like another great thing that you're putting out into the world. So congrats on that. So yeah, check out Golfers Journal.
I admire what you do. You've helped a lot of golfers enjoy golf more, my friend. And
we try.
We've been really fortunate to have you on the pod and our community discussions. So that's a vital endeavor as well, to help people get around the golf course a little more efficiently. Same for you, helping people play better that's pretty important to keeping people interested in golf. So I appreciate both of you.
We try. Thank you for that. Well, we'll conclude the episode there. Adam, where can everyone find your stuff as always?
AdamYoungGolf.com. And Jon, where can people find your stuff?
Check out the 4 Foundations of Golf or my YouTube channel. Thanks for everyone who makes it this far, and we'll see you next time with a new episode.